Oh, he's odd.
Amazing, right?
From 1995. You give me an idea. I can't. I broke down and crashed the iPhone.
You're good. You want to leave? I'll call this meeting of the County Board of Supervisors to order. Roll call by the county clerk.
We have 28 present and 2 absent.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Lund, would you lead us?
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty, justice for all.
Take a moment to contemplate the budget. Thank you. Please be seated. We're in compliance with the open meetings law.
We are, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda. So moved by Supervisor Backlund, second by Supervisor Paulson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Communications. Anything? No communications. Public comment. Any public comment pertaining anything on the agenda? Seeing none. Reports. Net new construction.
So, quick explanation. Every year, as part of the budget preparation, DOR puts out documents related to our apportionment and net new construction, and it's based on the towns, cities, and villages. So you can kind of see how that's broken down by both growth, but also how overall it's apportioned to the overall 100%. So net new construction is important for local governments because that's when you look at the tax levy laws, that's what calculates of what we can increase the tax by. And then the apportionment is more for your district, so you understand how much of the pie your part of the jurisdiction picks up the county total, and that's how it's kind of broken out. So those are just two documents from an educational piece, but also as we finalize the calculations for taxes, et cetera, those are the documents we use.
Thank you. Public hearing. Mr. Jones.
Mr. Chairman, I move to open the public hearing on the 2024 recommended budget. This is a public hearing required by state statute. I'll need a second.
Second by Supervisor Jaco. Questions? Okay. The public hearing is open. Oh, all in favor of opening the public hearing, excuse me, say aye.
Aye.
So the public hearing is open. Anybody care to comment on the budget? Supervisor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just had one question. On page 106, under intergovernmental cooperation, it says Revive Council of Government. Could you review for us what that is, please? Thank you.
Did you say 106?
I hope I have the right number. No, okay. Well, I looked at the link, and that's where I found it. I don't know where exactly it is. It's under intergovernmental cooperation. I thought it was page 106. On the link today that we got recently for today.
Let me quick pull that up. So we do hold an intergovernmental ICCC group fund to pay for various things, and communities do it. But I need to double check that's indeed what that is, Supervisor Martin. 132. Thank you.
She found it, okay.
Oh, Council of Governments. Okay, thank you. I thought it was a budget number I was looking for. So the goal of that is we tried to do this a few years ago, is to bring in partners in local government together on a periodic basis to talk about needs of the day. Many of you know that example is the Towns Association gets together about once a quarter or so to talk about issues related to towns. Michael's gone to start going to those events just to kind of make sure we have that liaison effort between that. But this started a few years ago when we, I think it was a Just Fix It campaign. If I recall right, we had a room full out at the county fairgrounds. We talked about various things, not just how to deal with roads, but other things that are commonalities with all the local governments. So this has come up in strategic planning in the past, is getting a group together. In the past, it's been the chief elected official and to have a chief administrative or chief operation officer to bring together just to talk about common issues across the various levels of government within Jefferson County. So that's what the Council of Government is intended to be.
Other questions, comments on the budget? Matt, you raising your hand? No, okay.
You know.
Seeing none, I'll entertain a Mr. Jones.
Mr. Chairman, I move to close the public hearing on the 2024 recommended budget.
Second by Supervisor Paulson. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, the public hearing on the budget is closed. Special order of business. Mr. Waymeyer, questions and answers on the 2024 budget.
So this is just a follow-up with the public comment to the county board members. Obviously, there's always an opportunity if you have questions related to the budget. We can also have conversations offline, but if folks just want to have a conversation in this forum right now, this is an opportunity to have that conversation. If not, please reach out to Mark, myself, or the department heads if you have other additional questions related to what we proposed in the recommended budget with the Finance Committee.
Any questions that come to mind right at the moment? If not, go to presentation of the final strategic plan.
So Cheryl's coming online. I think thank everyone for hard work. Michael, and we have various department heads have been working as leads in the various priority areas. Deborah Reinbold, Colin Weissman, Matt Zangel, and Brian Udovich have all kind of helped to put this all together as the final documents and working through wordsmithing with a lot of input from the board. And so tonight, Cheryl's going to kind of talk through those final phases with the final document that was sent out as part of the packet. You do have a resolution in your packet tonight to look at tentatively if the board decides to move forward with adoption of the strategic plan as is. A lot of that is, if you've gone through that, you've seen a lot of our goals and ideas and outcomes are tied to this proposed strategic plan as well already as part of the 2024 budget. So with that being said, Cheryl, I'll turn it over to you to go through your final presentation and try to answer any final questions. Thank you.
Cheryl.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. I am just really impressed with all of the work that's been accomplished in the last 6 months. I'm particularly impressed at the way it's been able to be integrated into the budget. Sometimes the work that we put in the strategic plan just doesn't get easily or quickly integrated into the budget. And as you all know, I feel that's one of the key components. So just in case, I'm Cheryl Trent, S Brand Solutions. I'm here tonight to walk you very briefly through a presentation on how we arrived at what you've been considering adopting and to answer any questions. And again, the idea is that your strategic plan is a living document. If hopefully you adopt it this evening, know that it is not a static piece of work. It is designed to be a long-term guide and a roadmap for the county and where you're headed, as well as the things that you want to preserve as you move toward the future. But it will be consistently talked about and discussed in the budget process as we move through some of the integration phases And, you know, those staff that Ben mentioned and other staff have put significant time and effort into it, just as the entire board has put significant time and effort into it. So what you have tonight, I think, is a great representation of the potential opportunities and some of the challenges that the county faces. So I'm going to share a screen with you. And what I want to do is walk quickly through the PowerPoint, which is a companion piece to the report. I am happy to talk about specifics or answer questions at the end of this quick presentation. And I also have a few quick things to say about the plan document itself. So let's see how this is going to work. So hopefully you all can now see, there it goes. Okay, perfect. So I know we all remember, but it never hurts to say it again. This is that big picture view. It's not hyper specific. It's not like one of your master plans that talks about the details of exactly what it looks like. This is designed as your policy level direction so that the staff can take that and implement it and put legs to it through things like the budget and conversations around future plans and updating master plans and even into the HR side of performance evaluations and those conversations. It's also a really great communication tool for you to use. If someone were to say, well, what's important to the county? This is the document that would be something that you could turn to and share with them. We answered 4 questions during our process. The first one is the where are we right now? You know, what's working well, what's not working well? What is our current state? You know, what's our purpose? What's our mission? We also answered the question, where are we going? What do we see coming? What are those trends? What does the vision for the future look like? What does that feel like? What do I see? And then the bulk of the work, wow. Okay, perfect. You still see it. I don't see it. So the bulk of the work is taken up under the how do we get there, as well as the how will we know. I will say the how will we know part, you created those outcomes for us, and we're in the process of working through what we would call performance measures or metrics. You might hear them called KPIs, key performance indicators. So that's going to continue to be built on by the staff. I think you're all well aware of the benefits of strategic planning. I think we even saw quite a bit of it. This document really gives clear direction from the board to the staff. It's an opportunity to reach alignment in the areas that you can reach alignment on so that we're all reading from the same book. It's also a really great opportunity. I noticed there was a question about the budget to say, oh, what does this mean and how will this work with our partners and those people that we need to work with, to collaborate with, to leverage our resources and theirs to make the county even better in the future. You all know it was built on the back of your comprehensive plan. That was the document that you just adopted that had an enormous amount of community engagement and outreach. And we used that information along with additional information about master plans, your budget documents, the processes, to use as the foundation for the conversations around the strategic plan. So the process we used, you had 5 phases. It took about 6 months or so. We did a lot of logistics and planning. We did a lot of that research and review I just touched on. The outreach and engagement, we had those surveys that we did of your internal staff. We did a number of one-on-one conversations. We had a number of meetings, both weekly and the big retreat and the implementation meetings we had together as a team. And you all, the people in your side of the room, because I'm not with you tonight, unfortunately, but you all crafted the framework for this plan. This is truly a plan that your community, the people that you're looking at on your left and your back and between and in front of you, and all the staff that's not there tonight, and all the community that did the comprehensive plan, this is really that plan. It was crafted with that guidance, that intent, that language, all those corrections you've made over the course of multiple meetings since then. That's what's reflected in the document that you see tonight. And I mentioned the implementation side. So you're going to be hopefully adopting tonight the strategic plan. There's also the implementation plan, which I know you're aware of and you've seen. It's sort of the literal working it changes every day document because something is happening. And that's a very robust document that takes all of your priorities and all of your goals and all of those objectives and lines them up with accountability, with people, and timeframes, so that when a report comes back through to you as the board, you know that things are being done based on the direction you gave in the strategic plan. So I hope some of you recognize yourself. I did take a few photos. This was all of the engagement that I talked about we did to add to the engagement around the comprehensive plan. Some information about the staff survey, just to kind of touch base, that you had 93 respondents and some of the key takeaways that we talked about during our retreat. The interviews that we did and some of those main themes that emerged from the interviews. And we did talk to a few of your community stakeholders as well. So we had this opportunity to really get some themes from that outreach and engagement, as well as take those themes and talk about them during our retreat to dig deeper. And that was a lot of work and effort on your part, and I want to say thank you. Out of that came your vision and your mission, and those both drive the priorities. So you see this vision and mission statement within your plan document. The vision, as you remember, is bigger picture. It's more aspirational. It's it should make you smile to think about. It should be engaging. Whereas your mission is very purpose driven, very straightforward. Then we did the priorities along with definitions and outcomes. So you don't just sort of throw a priority into the plan. There's a little definition so that we know what we mean. We share an understanding of what we're talking about. And I mentioned those outcomes that you talked to us about that then drive those performance measures. So these are the 4 big priorities: diverse housing opportunities, highly regarded quality of life, intentional economic growth, and transformative government. And I sure hope they're alphabetically arranged, because that was the intent. So I'm pretty bad at the alphabet, believe it or not. So that was the intent. You'll see this is literally a snapshot pulled out of your plan. You'll notice the icons there. Hopefully you'll start seeing these icons in relationship to the strategic plan in things like reports, annual reports, budget documents, updates. These icons can then start being used as that sort of graphic representation, so you can tie what you're doing back to your 4 priorities. After that, as you know, we created strategic goals and objectives. I didn't list them all here. What I want to end with is this implementation and integration piece, where we take the plan and make sure it's a living document. And I know Mr. Lucky is really your strategic planning guru there, and I know he's going to be on top of it, but I don't want you to forget that you have this opportunity as well to say, oh, hey, how does this relate to the strategic plan? Or I think this fits into one of these 4 priorities, which is why I want to make a comment on it. So there are lots of opportunities to do that. You just saw it in your budget. The master plans, as they're updated or created, can tie back into the strategic plan. And it's a great time to say, hey, are we still on course? Are we on track? Does that still make sense? I recommend that the board get together. I wouldn't necessarily call it a retreat. It could be a meeting just like this, just to touch base on the plan at least once a year, in the sense of, hey, do those priorities still fit, right? Are those still the biggest, and are they in priority order goals that we want to achieve? There are going to be the regular updates. There's the implementation plan that's consistently used. So all of these fit together to allow you to use the plan in a way that makes sense. This is the little flow chart, and it basically says, is this talked about in the plan? And this is why it's important for the plan to be a living document. Things change. 5 years from now, you may have an opportunity that we had no idea existed today. So you want the plan to be something that you use so that you have this opportunity to hold a conversation. But the plan is also a way to say, hey, look, if this doesn't fit into our priorities, then it's unlikely that we're going to consider it unless there's some overwhelming evidence that we missed something in the plan, or, as I mentioned, we now have new information. So that's my very quick overview of how we got to where we are today. And I just wanted to say, certainly from Zach and from me as well, thank you very much for trusting us, the opportunity to work with your community. It was wonderful to meet your staff. Really excited to see where you are going to take this plan in the future. So you do have a plan document in front of you, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have about it or walk through it. The one thing I wanted to say is I've already noticed a few minor, for example, minor meaning there's an asterisk where there doesn't need to be an asterisk. So I would like, if you see those minor typos, that we can note them, but don't let that stand in the way of adoption. Know that we will change that after this evening if we see anything. And of course, as issues come up and we might want to exchange or trade out a word or something, we're more than happy to do that as well. Thank you.
Any questions for Cheryl? Questions for Cheryl? Seeing none, thank you very much, Cheryl.
You're welcome. I see both Ben and I are prepared to bring the plan up if you would like us to bring the plan up. I just didn't want to take any more time than the board felt was necessary.
Anybody need another review? Seeing none, I think we're good, Cheryl. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Takes us to committee reports, resolutions, and ordinances. Executive Committee, Mr. Winnicky, resolution adopting 2023 strategic plan.
Okay, resolution number 2023
41.
41, adoption of the 2023 to 2033 strategic plan. Executive summary. In 2023, Jefferson County embarked on a strategic planning process. A strategic plan is a working living document that reflects the policy direction from the elected body, sets the vision for the organization, and drives and informs an implementation plan which the staff will create to ensure progress and measurable results. The strategic plan will be updated and reported on regularly to the county board. Jefferson County's comprehensive plan and other existing planning documents served as the foundation for the strategic plan process, with the specific intent being the development of priorities for implementation. There was a robust engagement process with the public consideration of previous public inputs and multiple meetings of the Board of Supervisors and key staff to create this final document for adoption. The strategic plan process was designed to access current efforts and status, build upon successes and partnerships, continue momentum in positive growth in services, and identify a path to further accomplishments. The vision and mission created by the County Board of Supervisors will provide policy level alignment, and when combined with the priorities and strategic goals, will give clear direction from the County Board of Supervisors to staff for budgeting, planning, and allocation of resources. The strategic planning process was overseen and sponsored by the Executive Committee. The County Board held a public board retreat on July 31st and August 1st, 2023, followed by public workshop meetings on August 8th and September 12th, 2023. This resolution adopts the enclosed strategic plan based on the feedback and guidance from these meetings. The strategic plan adopts the following vision statement. We are a place to spend a lifetime, a welcoming community with a thriving economy, cherished roots, and an innovative mind. And whereas the strategic plan adopts the mission statement of our mission is to enhance the quality of life by providing exceptional services and programs to our community, and adopt the following tagline: explore, thrive, and belong. The 4 items as strategic priorities: diverse housing opportunities, highly regarded quality of life, intentional economic growth, transformative government. Now therefore be it resolved that the 2023 to 2033 strategic plan is hereby adopted in its entirety, and the county administrator is directed to finalize an implementation plan with staff, facilitate alignment with the priority-based budgeting system, and develop a process for reporting progress to the County Board of Supervisors and to the public. And be it further resolved, the Executive Committee will continue to provide oversight of the strategic plan, which shall include referring any future amendments that may be necessary for various reasons, included but not limited to accomplishment of objectives, emerging trends, and change in priorities to the County Board of Supervisors for consideration. Fiscal note, this resolution does not have a direct fiscal impact. The plan will help prioritize and align future budgeting processes with the intent of executing the overall plan. Departments have aligned the fiscal year 2024 budget goals and outcomes based on the mission, vision, guiding principles, priorities, and objectives of the plan. Future budgets will be based on this plan, with further refinement based on the priority-based budgeting process. Mr. Chair, I move for approval.
Do I have a second? Second by Supervisor Paulson. Questions, discussion? Supervisor Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So a little background. At our September meeting, Cheryl Trent made a presentation, and in that presentation, she'd made mention of that there wasn't a definition for rural at that time. So I thought about that. I procrastinated for a couple of weeks, and I did some research on looking up what different definitions are available out there. Merriam-Webster and the USDA, the Census Bureau at the government, and so on, and other universities have rural definitions, and they're all, some very good for what they are. I also included, and I sent those to Cheryl, asking, if she was interested in using any of those. I also wrote my own definition based on the notion that I thought a definition that was really closely related to the residents of Jefferson County would be appropriate and maybe more accurate. Unfortunately, when I sent that along, it wasn't a final draft, but Cheryl adopted it and put it in the plan. And it wasn't really ready for prime time. So I just was talking to Michael Lucky. He thought maybe this would be the time to make a change. So I'm going to read this change. And I'll just one other caveat. My laptop wouldn't connect to the internet today. So I ended up having to take a picture of a screen. I'll read that to you. The actual changes are like 2 or 3 words. And the definition reads this way. For rural. An area of the county outside of city limits that is predominantly land of open space, woodlands, and agricultural use, with very light residential and non-agricultural related business. In such a rural area, the population would prefer to forego city traits such as congestion, noise, vehicle traffic, and conveniences such as large retail businesses, wide, fast roads, and amenities of development. These residents would not harbor fears of crime or neighbor conflicts, but would rather enjoy wildlife encounters, quiet days, and dark nights. So that's my definition that was included. The words that I changed were the word between vehicle traffic and conveniences. I put the word "and" in there. I had another clunky word that made no sense. And then I deleted reference to crime in terms of drug use or illegal drugs. That was a little harsh. I didn't intend that. It was not a smart move, and I didn't expect it to be. And so this is the definition I would like to amend the plan to read.
So moved. Second. Okay, second by Supervisor Paulson. Any discussion on that amendment? Seeing none, all in favor of that amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we'll consider that amended. Thank you, Mr. Christensen. Any other discussion? Questions? Mr. Christensen.
Seeing nobody else stepping forward, I do have a couple comments on the strategic plan. I was at most of those meetings, and I tried to participate as much as I could. I am happy with a number of the aspects of the plan. I think it does a really good job in showing our interest in moving the county forward, our plan forward in a number of important ways. But I think it falls short in a couple other places. One is I'm disappointed that there's no mention of climate change. I did talk to Cheryl and Zach about how that could be accomplished, that you're not using the word climate change perhaps. Maybe there's another way to reference those important issues that we're going to be faced with. I don't really see that in the plan now. I'm not asking for a change right now. I hope it does come back around because eventually it's not going to be, you can't ignore it. The other thing that I am a little concerned about is the more or less over time watering down of the consideration of rural and rural character. And I bring that up because that is a consistent interest of my constituents when I talk to them and when they respond to surveys and other things. They are very interested in protecting the rural character. And in the plan, I see that rural interests and rural character is really given a lot of high-minded language. But unfortunately, there's a couple of places, and I will tell you that they are under goal 1, for instance, objectives 1.3 and 1.4. Those are objectives that specify more and novel approaches to rural development. And so, okay, that's understandable, but there's no counterbalancing protection of rural character, rural areas from development that's given a goal that's as, and an objective that's as specific as that. And so I think that's an unfortunate oversight and a contradiction. And I'm going to offer an amendment to the resolution that may help to improve the ability of the rural areas to survive a push for growth or a push for development. Because I think what we're looking at here is a smiley face versus a bulldozer situation. I think we can change that a little bit. So, Mr. Chairman, I offer this amendment to the resolution, and this would go after the first be it resolved clause, and it would read this way. Be it further resolved that protection of rural areas be of equal or greater priority than rural development in the strategic plan, comma, and. So if that were adopted, I think it would balance out and instruct the executive committee to appreciate in reality the.
Could you repeat that again?
Yes, I can. So this would, as I say, it would go between the two be it resolved clauses. And it would say, be it further resolved that protection of rural areas be of equal or greater priority than rural development in the strategic plan, and then comma, and, so that it leads into the next clause.
I'll second that motion.
Seconded by Supervisor Goulet. Discussion. Questions? Mr. Morris.
Just double checking, this is a legal document, is that correct?
Well, this is the resolution that he's talking about.
Right, but he's talking about adding that into the resolution, but will it be reflected actually in the language of the strategic plan itself?
It could be, I
Are
imagine,
we modifying the language of the plan, or are we modifying the resolution?
modify the resolution at this point.
So then do we expect this language to show up in the plan?
Mr. Chair, can I take my take of the direction? So it goes back to that we're intending the strategic plan be a living document. And so if this is the direction of the county board, the direction with staff working with the executive committee and board members is how do we look at using that phrase within the strategic plan? And maybe in some cases we come back with a different goal objective that fulfills that desire of the county board to move forward.
So I'm not actually making an argument either way for the language here that Supervisor Christensen is suggesting. I'm just asking to what degree is the strategic plan a legal document?
Well, the plan itself.
Yeah.
You want to take a swing at
Didn't
that?
we just have a land issue and part of the argument against us was we weren't following our strategic plan?
It's a guide.
That was a comprehensive.
Strategic plan is different than a comprehensive plan.
Okay, so we were talking, the comprehensive plan is the legal document required by state law. So strategic plan is our document that coincides with priority-based budgeting.
Correct. So your strategic plan would be more of your policy guidelines, and your comprehensive plan is
All right, that's the clarification that I'm asking for. Thank you.
Mr. Christensen.
Partly to answer that question, my goal here was to provide more solid instruction to the executive committee and other committees and other departments about the priorities of the board.
Mr. Gulick.
I'm curious if it'd be possible, if this resolution passes, if the resolution, the text of the resolution itself could be in no small part a preface to the strategic plan. That would be a way of, I think, satisfying several questions of, are we actually modifying the plan, or not? But most importantly, it would remind us of what we actually passed. We didn't pass on the specific language of the plan. We didn't, cooperatively edit the plan. But we are doing that with this resolution. So I'd suggest, if it's possible, procedurally to append the resolution or use the resolution that we're about to vote on as a preface to this strategic plan.
I certainly have no.
It's not a motion of any sort. It's just a request of the administration.
I think there's that option, Supervisor, or maybe even at the end, we have a list of kind of resource documents. We attach it to the back. We'll figure out the best way if that's all right with you. If that's the desire of the board.
Sounds reasonable to me. Any other questions? Discussion? Mr. Jones? We're discussing the amendment right now.
Could you reread what Mr. Christensen suggested, please?
Protection of rural areas be of equal or greater priority in the strategic plan.
I guess I just have some concern about the word greater, one over the other. So we're limiting, one side's already winning by accepting this. I'm not quite sure what we mean by, well, I guess I know what we mean by greater, that the protection of rural development would win out over any other plan or program. Thank you.
Mr. Brogler, and then Ms. Turnville Heights. Oh, I thought you had your hand up.
We've already established that this document is going to be a living, breathing, moving object. And we really haven't even got it solidified, and we're already proposing changes. I'd rather we get our feet on the ground and then look at some of these things, because we're never going to accomplish everything that's already in it. We established that when we started talk at the very beginning. It's this lots of things we'd like to do, but then we're going to have to simmer it down and figure out, okay, we're going to work on this for a while, but maybe we need to work on this, and this will be emphasized in the budget, or this will be emphasized in this. So I'm not in favor of already right off the bat changing the resolution, which is broad in its nature, and now making it very specific. So I would encourage others to vote no on this, but let that idea and philosophy come up when we start actually using the document.
Mr. Zarling.
I'll absolutely second that, and sort of dovetail that with saying, much as I agree with Supervisor Christensen's point, I, as supervisor of District 4, City Watertown, I strongly have my own ideas for what's important for the city. So I feel I agree with the Supervisor Brogler that it's a little bit out of place in this context.
Mr. Morris.
Again, I would say very similarly, it's the greater than part of the suggested language that concerns me. And as Supervisor Brogler said, the document itself is the important thing. The resolution is just trying to get us to pass the document. But the greater than does bother me a little bit.
Other discussion? Other discussion? Mr. Christian, have anything to add?
If greater than is a stumbling block, somebody could offer an amendment to delete that.
Is there an amendment to delete that? Mr. Gulick.
Procedurally, would it be appropriate for Supervisor Christensen to modify his own amendment? No.
It's already been seconded, so we'd vote on the amendment and then the first amendment, whether to remove it, if somebody puts that motion on the floor, and then we go back to the original amendment as amended, and then we go into the resolution. So is there anybody would like to bring up an amendment to remove or greater? Supervisor Gulick.
I'll make a motion to amend the amendment to remove or greater.
Okay. Do I have a second to that? Supervisor Martin seconds that. Okay. Discussion on the amendment to amend.
Could you read what we have, please?
That's a little
Well,
confusing.
the protection of rural areas be of equal priority in the strategic plan that rural areas be of equal priority in the strategic plan.
Development in the strategic.
Okay, then rural development in a, okay. No, that's still not right. Protection of rural areas be of equal priority in the strategic plan
It should say
to
as.
rural development.
It should say as.
Okay. Is that correct?
As.
Or as rural development, okay. I'm trying to write this as fast as people are talking and it's, okay. Supervisor Paulson, discussion on the amendment to amend.
At this point, it doesn't appear that we're changing anything. You know, we go to this, it's changing absolutely nothing, which I'm fine with. But doesn't seem to make a whole lot of sense.
Mr. Zarling.
Again, much as I don't disagree with Supervisor Christensen's sentiment, I don't feel this is at all the right place, the right context, the right usage of that. Any language that refers to anything like equal, it's just not the right place for this, in my opinion. I think that between the strategic plan itself, comprehensive plan, we've more than adequately covered that we all care about rural preservation.
Any other discussion? We'll vote on the amendment to amend. All in favor of removing greater from the original amendment, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none. So now we'll vote on the original amendment as with the removal of greater. And protection of rural areas be of equal or greater, excuse me, I gotta cross it out. Protection of rural areas be of equal priority in the strategic plan is rural development. That's the amendment we're voting on now. Any further discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, then let's have a roll call vote, please. Amendment to resolution number, whatever. What was the number?
41.
Well, she's working on it. She's working on it. She has to type something in there for us to vote on. There you go.
Supervisor Richardson?
Aye.
Oh, there we go. Okay, we have 10 yes, 17 no, 1 abstain, and 2 absent.
Okay, takes us back to the original resolution 41. Any further discussion on the original resolution? Supervisor Trevor Heights.
I just had a quick question here, and it was more of a, in the second whereas, when we talk about the vision statement, is that phrased correctly at the end where it says, "and an innovative mind," or should it have been mindset? It seems like that was different from what I thought I saw in the plan originally. And I just wanted to make sure we were approving correct language.
Mr. Waymire believes it's mindset as well. Cheryl says yes too. So if you just want to add that in as an editorial
If we
thing, it
can
doesn't.
make sure that that's correct before we vote on it.
Yeah, so it'd be an innovative mindset. That's a editorial thing here that doesn't need to be amended. Okay. Any other questions, discussion? Supervisor Gould.
I'd like a roll call vote on the resolution itself, please.
Okay, we can do that. Any other discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call then on the resolution 41.
Supervisor Richardson?
Aye.
We have 25 yes, 3 no, and 2 absent.
The resolution passes. Takes us to, I have to find my agenda here. Takes us to item 12, Broadband Working Group, resolution authorizing the expansion of a public-private partnership with Hilbert Communications, Bug Tussle by applying for capital projects fund broadband infrastructure grant and extending conduit debt financing. Supervisor Fitzgerald.
All right, resolution number 2023-42. Broadband has often been referred to as the infrastructure of the future, impacting business investment, education access, residential attraction, and quality of life. The importance of broadband was reinforced through Jefferson County's update of its comprehensive plan, which was approved in 2021, where broadband was a demonstrated need brought forward by our communities and other stakeholders. This was reinforced during the development of Jefferson County's strategic plan as continued efforts for broadband expansion to underserved and unserved parts of the county was highlighted as a key initiative for the county that impacts everyone, including rural and urban residents and business and agribusiness, by providing access to education and lifelong learning. There are several broadband projects within Jefferson County currently under construction. This includes expansion of services by TDS in several communities, installation of fiber by Charter Spectrum throughout various locations in the county via Rural Digital Opportunity Funds, or RDOF, installation of fiber in the greater Fort Atkinson area by Edge Broadband with a Public Service Commission grant and county matching funds, and installation of a countywide project by Bug Tussle through a conduit debt instrument, along with other miscellaneous entities with various projects throughout the county. The Wisconsin Public Service Commission, the PSC, announced the Capital Projects Fund Broadband Infrastructure Grant Program, which provides up to $42 million in federal grant dollars available on a statewide basis. Applications are due November 7th, 2023. In developing parameters for the grant, the PSC developed several criteria to determine what locations are eligible for funding, including but not limited to 100 megabytes per second download and upload speeds, existing enforceable funding commitment, including RDOF and PSC grant areas, and factors of the Social Vulnerability Index. Originally, Bug Tussle was the only internet service provider that approached the county. We have since had a second one reach out to us today. You may hear more about that in the future, but as of now, Bug Tussle approached the county with 2 identified locations that expanded on their current project and met the grant criteria that would be competitive for the grants. First project area is in the town of Milford. Total estimated cost $1.7 million and would impact 152 serviceable locations. This would build upon a middle mile project to be installed in 2024 and would seek $800,000 in grant funds. It is north of I-94 and west of the Rock River. Second location is the town of Cold Spring and Palmyra. Total estimated cost of $1.25 million and would impact 136 serviceable locations. This area is north of the county line, west of the village of Palmyra, and northeast of UW-Whitewater. This would build upon a middle mile installation installed in 2023 and would seek $500,000 in PSC grant funding. The remainder of the funds needed for each project would be provided by Bug Tussle and Jefferson County through conduit debt financing. At its meeting on October, and that should be 20th, not 23rd, so on October 20th, 2023, the Broadband Working Group considered the projects as presented by Bug Tussle and discussed financing options for a potential match towards these projects. Broadband Working Group recommended moving forward with working with Bug Tussle and expanding utilization of the conduit debt financing model to cover the match if awarded, allowing ARPA funds to be reallocated as needed for other projects in the county. Finance Committee previously conceptually reviewed the utilization of conduit debt financing to fund broadband projects and using overall ARPA funds for other needs of the county, which was also provided as part of the budget message. This resolution authorizes the county administrator to expand the public-private partnership with Hilbert Communications Bug Tussle by applying for the Capital Projects Fund Broadband Infrastructure Grant Program for the projects presented and extend conduit debt financing for these projects. Broadband Working Group considered this resolution at its meeting on October 20th, 23, and recommended forwarding it to the county board for approval. Fiscal note, passage of this resolution will have no fiscal impact at this time. If Jefferson County is awarded a grant, the Board of Supervisors will be required to approve additional resolutions to meet necessary statutory requirements for financing model, authorize a new agreement with provider, and amend the budget accordingly. Those will be brought to the Board of Supervisors for approval. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
So moved by Supervisor Fitzgerald, second by Supervisor Johns. Questions, discussion? Mr. Zarling.
Just one real tiny thing. The geek in me is obliged to mention that the 100 megabits is what it is, not megabytes. Those are 2 different things. So the yardstick there is megabits, and those are 2 very different things in terms of bandwidth.
So noted. Supervisor Brockler.
Oh, yeah. The finance director, has the finance director seen this? Normally he signs off on these things. Is it because it's moving so quickly?
Twofold. First answer is yes. It was moving very quickly with the need for a potential resolution. Mark had to be out of town for something with his family when this was being taken care of on an unexpected basis. So the fiscal note is based on previous broadband fiscal notes that we've utilized for similar projects. So it's pretty closely aligned with those previous ones that he has approved.
Any other questions, discussion? Supervisor Smith.
Thank you. Is there any kind of cost per household that we can get for doing this?
Cost per household in terms of cost they would incur in terms of connection, cost per internet service provider.
You know, what's not going to be covered by the grant is what we might end up paying in the end to connect these houses per house.
In general, how these grants are set up is called fiber to the home. So in general, it'll get you a spot to get close to the property line. There's a certain amount, if I recall correctly, and I need to double check this, that they would pay from the linear footage from the right-of-way area up to the house. But there potentially could be a charge related to that, but I need to clarify additional amounts beyond that. And then you'd have obviously the monthly fee that we require for internet service providers. One thing Michael has been briefing the broadband working group on is there are some federal programs out there specifically for folks who qualify for various programs already within the county or federal state level. This includes about roughly $30 a month to help cover the cost for service being provided. Most of these services are roughly, I want to say $70 to $100 a month is what they're looking at. There's also some other programs within Bug Tussle and some of these other grant provisions for helping those in need for that too.
I would imagine it's like the gas company. I have a 6-inch and a 4-inch gas line that run in front of my house. And they will charge, I can get gas miles, but they will charge me to put the line to my house. And then, of course, charge me for the gas after that. Supervisor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have any time frame that we might expect to hear back about this Capital Projects Fund broadband infrastructure grant program if we apply? Thank you.
So the deadline is the 7th. I'm trying to think. I had a chart all pulled up here. There's a challenge period for roughly 2 weeks after that. Okay, here's the notes. So August 7th, applications due from applicants up in the grant system. November 30th is the last day for submitting objections to the grant applications. And then those who have objections, then you have till December 14th to file final objections. In our experience, then the staff reviews that with the PSC commissioners, and at some point there's a final order issued by the PSC related to who get the grants. Considering it's December 14th, I can't expect if we would have an award notice by the end of the year. My guess is we're probably going to January for final award would be my speculation. But I don't see any notes specifically in the note of announcement of the grant. The performance deadline, just also everyone knows if you do get the grants, is December 31st of 2026.
Any other questions, discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? One opposed. The resolution passes by voice vote. It takes us to item 13, Finance Committee resolution accepting $1,009.90 from the Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation for Universal Hub for Ages and Stages Questionnaire Screening Results. Supervisor Jones.
Resolution number 2023-43. In partnership with the Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation and other community agencies, the foundation has invested in a universal hub from Brooks Publishing Company that will house Ages and Stages questionnaire results. Through grant funding from the Greater Watertown Community Health Foundation, the amount of $1,009.90. The service fees, subscriptions, and registration charge associated with this program will be reimbursed. With this universal hub and its ability to universally house that data from the Ages and Stages questionnaire, the Jefferson County Health Department can better understand the strengths of children in our communities and identify areas where they need additional support in order to assess and plan for future interventions and achieve a greater collective impact. The goals include increasing the number of developmental screens completed for children in Dodge and Jefferson counties, increasing the percentage of children who are developmentally on track and ready to attend kindergarten. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on October 4th, 2023, and the Board of Health considered its meeting October 18th, 2023. Both recommended forward to the County Board for approval. Fiscal note. Please see the accompanying budget adjustment or amendment request form for specific accounts affected by this resolution. This is a budget amendment. This resolution requires a 2/3 affirmative vote for all board members, 20 of 30 for passage. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Moved by Supervisor Jones, second by Supervisor Turnbull Heights. Questions, discussions? Seeing none, we need a roll call vote.
Supervisor Richardson,
Aye.
Supervisor Paulson,
Aye.
Passes 28-0. Takes us to the next resolution, accepting a $500 Randy Chopin donation for a Jefferson County community baby shower.
Resolution number 2023-44. The Randy Chopin Foundation, JCF, was formed to continue the work that Randy did throughout his life, helping others, supporting communities, and giving people a chance. The foundation's mission is to continue that legacy by helping others in his hometown of Jefferson, Wisconsin. The Randy Chopin Foundation, JCF, awarded the Jefferson County Health Department a $500 grant for the Jefferson County Community Baby Shower, which most recently took place on October 20th, 2023. This grant will fund the meals provided for those in attendance. The community baby shower will not only celebrate the families who are expecting, but also connect them with valuable resources, which will be critical over the next few months of their lives. This event is also an opportunity for a population that generally feels isolated to feel socially connected and to help forge valuable relationship with others. The first community baby shower was held on May 12, 2023, and served residents in Jefferson County and Dodge County. The October 20th, 2023 community baby shower served solely residents of Jefferson County. This resolution authorizes the acceptance of grant funding from Randy Chopin Foundation, JCF, in the amount of $500 to fund the meals provided at the Jefferson County Community Baby Shower on October 20, 2023. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at its meeting on October 4th, 2023, and the Board of Health considered this resolution at its meeting on October 18th, 2023. Both recommended forwarding to the County Board of Supervisors for acceptance of $500 in grant funds. Fiscal note, please see the company budget adjustment and amendment request form and the specific amounts that's affected by this resolution. This is a budget amendment. This resolution requires a 2/3 affirmative vote to all board members, 20 of 30 for passage. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Second by Supervisor Jekyll. Questions, discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Supervisor Richardson,
Aye.
Supervisor Paulson,
Aye.
The resolution passes 28-0. Resolution 45, authorizing Jefferson County to enter into a general obligation promissory note agreement with Premier Bank in the amount of $370,000. Mr. Jones.
Resolution number 2345. Jefferson County purchased its current telephone system in 2003. The telephone system and technical support are currently provided by Cisco System. Recently, Cisco Systems informed the county that its current phones will not be supported in the next system upgrade, which will take place in 2025. The telephone system and technical support are critical to ensure that Jefferson County is able to continue operations and serve the public. On July 11, 2023, the Jefferson County Board of Supervisors approved a resolution authorizing the county to purchase the phone system from Mile under a capital lease agreement. At this time, the Finance Committee advised the County Administrator and Finance Director to investigate a means by which to satisfy this obligation in full in the 2024 budget. The full amount of the obligation on January 1, 2024 was expected to be approximately $370,000. During the budget process, it became clear the 2024 county operating budget could not support the full satisfaction of this obligation. As an alternative to early payment, the county is seeking to issue a general obligation promissory note with Premier Bank in the amount of $370,000. The restructuring of the debt will allow the county to shift this obligation from general operating levy to debt levy and also produce a savings of $24,485.32 over the current lease agreement. The Finance Committee considered this resolution at the October 4th, 2023 meeting and by a vote of 5-0 recommended forwarding to the County Board of Supervisors to enter in a general obligation promissory note in the amount of $370,000 with Premier Bank. Fiscal note. This general obligation promissory note refinances an equipment finance agreement with Leasing Services LLC for the purchase of a new county phone system for Mitel Incorporated that was approved by the County Board on July 11, 2023. The purpose of the refinance is twofold. One, restructuring as a general obligation debt will allow the county to shift the debt service payments from the operating levy to the debt levy. And two, refinancing from a 5-year 8% note to a 3-year 6.25 note will save an estimated $24,485.32 in interest payments. Passage of this resolution requires a 3/4 vote of the full county board of supervisors. Mr. Chair, I move for passage of this resolution.
Moved by Mr. Jones, second by Mr. Jaco. Questions, discussion? Mr. Zarlin.
Just a tiny thing in the fiscal note did clarify this and clear it up to me, but the second paragraph says, the first paragraph talks about the Cisco system purchased in 2003, and then to purchase, in the second paragraph, to purchase the phone system from Mitel. So I just wanted to clarify that it is a new phone system. It's not the existing old, buying out a lease agreement or anything like that.
It's a full new system, full new competitor background, new phones, the whole shebang.
Any other questions, discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote.
Supervisor Richardson,
Aye.
Supervisor Paulson,
Aye.
we have 28 yes, 0 no, 2 absent.
Resolution passes with well over a 3/4 vote, unanimous. Okay, takes us to item 14, special order of business. Mr. Waymeyer.
So we're almost there. So tonight you should have, we didn't print out full copies of the county board rules. And so the executive committee is in preparation of their, how they usually update board rules. And since we have several new board members, I was asked to kind of give a quick overview of the board rules and kind of some of the next steps if you are interested in looking at how to amend the board rules as we go forward with the ending of the term of this board and getting prepared for the next term of the new board in April of 2024. And our new corp counsel is going to help me with one section too, some friendly reminders. So we have about 9 sections if you really look in there, looking ahead. So the first ones, we'll really talk about the overview of the rules. As I said, we're going to have open meetings, reminder, historical procedures for board rules updates. Some call them historical procedures because these are the county board rules. So if you choose a different procedure to update the board rules, that is at the purview of the county board. And then really what are some of the next steps? So these are the various sections that are within the county board rules. And we'll quickly go through each section of the main areas in there, but there's other things that are in each of these that you might see as you read through them, but these are just some of the highlights. So the first section is really means, quorum, and order of business. This really tells us how we operate, or you all operate as a county board. Specifically, it talks about how meetings are scheduled, date and time. So part of it is based on past practice. This body has always met the second Tuesday of the month primarily, but there's a requirement in state statute that you have an annual meeting, basically the third Tuesday in April. And so that is annotated there as a statutory requirement. There's also a unique thing if you read the rules about the November meeting, depending on where it falls, related to November 14th. That's an important date because when things have to be approved from a budget, so municipalities can move forward. It also talks about special meetings and how those are called, and also talks about how meetings are canceled. And I think we had to do that for that cold spell here of how we give notice, et cetera. It also talks about attendance, notice provisions for attendance for good order of business, and it specifically prescribes the order of business for the agendas of the county board, both from an organizational perspective and annual business perspective, a normal business perspective. Then the organization, how are you all set up and how do you move forward as a new board is selected and continue day-to-day operations as a corporate body? So it outlines the election of officers and how they're held and administered. So this was an amendment that actually took place this past year to look at it in preparation for 2024. So there are some slightly new rules related to that, both who can be part of the process for counting, but also in terms of announcing votes and holding the ballots. It talks about who is the presiding official and designation of succession if that person is not available to run the meetings. Briefly talks about meeting attendance and conferences and notification processes. Notification process is primary, quite frankly, to make sure we don't violate the open meetings law. So if all of a sudden we get 5 people of the same committee going to the same conference, we would like to know so we can properly post it. Traditionally, we try to do that no matter what, but just try to keep everyone out of trouble in that one. A large section in here that was really added and beefed up this last term relates to remote attendance rules, so that's in there as well. And then if we have a vacancy in officer roles, or also if we have a vacancy in county board, it spells out that process by the county board to move that forward in compliance not only with the board rules, but also state statute. Board procedures. When I say board procedures, mainly how this meeting itself is functioned. There's actually a separate section of how standing committee meetings are run. So it reinforces Robert's rules. It does talk about how often you recognize. So if you may note the chair after 2 times to speak, you ensure that no one else wants to speak before you get an additional turn. That is in the board rules. It does ask that you rise to speak. So if that wants to change, that's in the board rules to have a conversation. Process for conflicts of interest. So one thing I think we just got to continue on is most people, when there's a conflict, they let us know, but the board rules say that notice should be before that the conversation takes place. So it's something we should remind each other of as we go forward. Voting procedures, what requires a roll call vote, specifically budget items, but also as tonight you saw that any board member can request a roll call vote at any point in time. How we process the resolution of the businesses, timelines, and how we handle written communications are all also included as well. There's also a whole chapter here of duties of officials. These are the main officials that are talked about, chairs, board chairs. This includes how agendas are developed and who holds the records, direction to county clerk, treasurer, administrator, corp counsel, county board reporter, and staff that supports committee chairs in development of agendas and keeping minutes, which is also responsibility of the county clerk. So we have a total of 13 standing committees in total. So these are primarily made up of county board members. These are all appointed by the county board chair. There is an exception. Obviously, the executive committee has 3 elected roles: the chair, first chair, and a second vice chair, elected by this body. But there's also some of our committees have specific requirements for those appointments, specifically outlined in state statute. So this is, especially land and water, is a prime example. There's requirement for certain people who might not be board members, and quite frankly, there's just a state law change that's going to trigger some things that we have to change back to the board rules related to the FSA appointed member. There's also a requirement that 2 members of the UW Extension and 2 members of Land and Water have to be on the same committees. So that's part of the domino impact of aligning them up. Zoning also has requirements. It's the county board members, but I believe 3 of them have to be living in unincorporated areas as well as part of that process. Just a general note, the chair, first vice chair, second vice chair can all serve as ex officios, or they can appoint someone to make quorum. And I say this is important because when we get to the next group of bodies, that cannot take place. So this is why it's important. If you're not going to be at a meeting, let us know, because we can make a phone call to try to get the chair or first vice chair, second vice chair there to make a quorum for that committee to move forward. And then each committee has various things of areas of responsibilities or duties. Sometimes there's sites of state statute. Some of it's based on previous resolutions and ordinances that this body has taken. Some is past practices. In some cases, it's emerging needs. Then we have 23 boards, commissions, committees, and other bodies that we have appointment powers to. And we also have 2 sub-advisory bodies that are underneath the Human Services Board. These are primary boards and intergovernmental bodies. The primary appointing authority is the county administrator and county board chair. The Human Services Board appoints their 2 sub-advisory bodies that comes to this board for confirmation. All my appointments require confirmation votes, as you all are aware. And a few of the county board chairs, example JC, EDC, do require confirmation votes as well. Members of these bodies can be board members, but some of them also have specific members of the public may be part of it. Some cases you may have technical experts. For example, the Traffic Safety Commission has certain functions that we ask to be on the committee because they're expertise. We talked about the Human Services Advisory Body. And then this is the one thing that's different. In general, if someone is missing, we can't just have a fill-in. So if an appointment is required to be their Human Services Board example, they're all county administrator appointments. If they need to be confirmed to serve on that body, we can't say, hey, Supervisor Jones just called Ben and said, we're going to show a quorum. Can Steve come serve for us? We can't do it because we have to have those confirmation votes. So that's a slight difference there. And similar circumstances that in terms of how these areas of responsibilities were developed. The one that I did miss is some cases we do have like intergovernmental agreements that also are the basis for how these bodies function as well too. The rules of county board standing committees. And again, these are for standing committees. I put a note down here, many of those boards, committees, and commissions, some of the boards, such as the Board of Health and Human Services Board, follow the standing committee rules. But you may have a committee such as one of the lake districts, as an example. They might have slightly different rules. We have an appointment to that body, but we don't dictate those rules necessarily in terms of how they operate. So very similar to board procedures. We talked about public comment periods, et cetera, in there, meeting schedules. There's actually a number of times maximum committees can meet. I think it's like something like 30 or 40 times a year. So there's plenty of thresholds built in there. And it also outlines the joint meeting process. So with that being said, we have a whole section on open meetings. And so whenever we have an opportunity, and sometimes we need friendly reminders of things that come back to staff too, related to open meetings. So we thought this was a good opportunity for the new corporation council to talk about open meetings briefly.
So very briefly, because I know that you guys are all familiar with open meetings. Obviously, any meeting of a governmental body has to be noticed. It has to be accessible to the public. When we typically think about open meetings, we're thinking about a meeting occurs when a quorum is present. So there are two situations where you can get into trouble where what we traditionally think of as a quorum is not present, but open meetings applies. Okay, and so those are situations referred to as either negative quorum or walking quorum. So a negative quorum occurs when there are enough members of a body present to block passage of something. If there are enough of those members present and that is not noticed, then that is a violation of open meetings. So for example, we had some budget amendments today, required 2/3 passage. If there was any gathering of 1/3 of you and you were discussing budget issues and that was not noticed, that would be an open meetings violation. You can see how that becomes more tricky at the committee level, right? So when you're dealing with smaller numbers, if you have a committee of 7 and you only need a quorum of 4, so 4 people are present, 2 people could constitute a negative quorum. And so the discussion of any government business between just 2 people could constitute an open meetings violation. The tricky part about that is that there isn't a way to define a magic number because it depends upon what you're voting on and the number of people that might show up for any given meeting to determine what could constitute a negative quorum. So you just always have to be careful when you're talking with other members of your committee about business that will come before your committee outside of your meeting. If you have questions about that, I'm certainly happy to answer any questions about that. The other potential violation of open meetings is a walking quorum. So that can occur when there are a series of conversations between individuals, not all together at once, but in regards to the same subject, the court has said that that can constitute a quorum or a meeting and therefore a violation of open meetings law. So that becomes a problem when supervisors are emailing with each other and they may email one supervisor about a particular issue and then that email gets forwarded on to other supervisors. And then there becomes this sort of polling or tacit agreement to act in a certain way at a meeting down the road. So has to be, you have to take caution when you're using electronic communication between members. The reason why the Attorney General has determined that negative quorum and walking quorum are both open meetings violations is because the purpose of open meetings obviously is to avoid a predetermined outcome and to make sure that those that want to have an opportunity to hear the debate and be present at meetings to avoid just sort of the mere formality. And so you can be prosecuted for open meetings violations. Those penalties include civil forfeiture. That would be personal liability for a civil forfeiture. It can also result in the court voiding any action that's taken if they're found that there was a violation of open meetings law. So those things have to be taken pretty seriously. Again, if you have questions about it, I'm happy to answer them. The court has been very clear that the policy is openness. And so if you are on the fence, you're to err on the side of openness. That's all I got.
Any questions for Danielle?
All right, and we're almost there. Amendments to the rules. Simply, it's typically a 2/3 vote, a majority. Most of you have been through this. We actually require 2 readings, but you can suspend the rules by unanimous consent, which, quite honestly, in my experience of being here, I think that's happened about every time. Move forward. I don't think I've been here for when we've had a second reading ever in the 10 years. So traditionally, what has happened, so this is where the things get to going. Tomorrow, the executive committee is meeting, and part is going to be talking about the process a little bit more. But typically in the past, we begin to review the county board rules the 4th quarter of the odd number year before elections would take place. The executive committee has often served as the oversight committee, and the input has come in many ways. Sometimes we have asked department heads to start looking at rules because of operational changes, as an example, that they see. Or what other board members bring forward to the executive committee or through various methodologies. Traditionally, those proposed rules are then presented to the entire county board in January, February, not to be voted on, but for reviews, with the outgoing board traditionally taking action in March to amend those rules. In essence, this becomes a recommendation to the incoming board because the incoming board still has to vote on the rules, how they're going to operate. So they can still amend them that night in April, and they have to be voted on before you can elect officers because one of the key board procedures is how do you elect officers. And so how our board rules are laid out is the county clerk, her favorite point of the year, gets to run the meeting initially until we elect the chair. But part of that is taking a vote of those rules. So this is just kind of a continuation process or continuity of how things take place. So, and obviously past rule development has been a variety of things. Statutory change a few years ago was a change in statute for the county clerk that was incorporated, ordinances, past practices, just whatever the board, quite frankly, wants to see changed in some cases. So those are just some quick things on the board rules, and the executive committee, we just want to open the door for input from the county board as this process moves forward.
Questions? Seeing none, we will move on to public comment of a general nature. Any public comment of a general nature? Supervisor Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Last night at the Fair Park meeting, between 40 and 50 people were in attendance. 20 individuals, including Supervisor Kurt Backlund and myself, spoke during the public comment period. 3 or 4 people registered to speak, but basically passed when their name came up on the list because they said that their comments were already represented by other people that spoke. It was impressive and encouraging to see how respectful everyone was to one another, even those individuals that didn't seem to have the easiest things to say. It was, however, quite disturbing as an elected official to hear the serious safety concerns expressed by 6 of the speakers regarding the 2023 Jefferson County Fair. These were concerns for the safety of the kids who exhibited as well as the animals being shown. We need to make changes starting now, not just unfunding or essentially eliminating a position for 2024 and not just adding a maintenance person. I would just encourage people to try to attend. I believe that the next Fair Park meeting is Thursday, November 9th at 8:30. If you can attend and listen to what is discussed. Last night, I did pledge to try to do what I can to help improve the 2024 fair. Thank you.
Any other comments of a general nature? Any other comments? Seeing none, we move on to announcements. Just 2 quick things that I have. Remember, our next county board meeting is November 14th, 2023 at 7 p.m. And if you get your budget amendments in by noon, November 6th, 2023, if you have any budget amendments. Mr. Waymire, do you have any announcements?
You beat me to the one I was going to do. Just a reminder of the schedule ahead of the due date for budget amendments, please. And if you want to talk through any issues, please let myself, Mark, or department heads know too.
Any other announcements? Supervisor Martin.
Thank you. On Monday, November 6th at 6 p.m. at the UW Extension Building on Collins Road, there will be a public meeting discussing the findings of the water study. 900 water samples were submitted from people with private wells in Jefferson County. And these were funds, this was funded by ARPA funds. So I'm sure there will be an announcement coming out soon, but just to remind people that that's coming up Monday, November 6th at 6 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Supervisor Gulick, second by Supervisor Jekyll. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Hearing none, we are adjourned.